You know how Theo Von does his intros? Like,
welcome.
Welcome.
I knew a friend, shoot, I shouldn't say this. He threw up in a taxi cab, and then he got evicted a couple days later from his house. I was doing coke at the time.
I'm a big D1 Taylor Swift hater, actually. If you put on Taylor Swift and then put on Katy Perry, I would listen to Katy Perry 8 times out of 10.
What do you think of Lana Del Rey?
I personally have only heard a couple songs, so I can't be...
I showed you one and you said it was stupid and you hated it.
Yeah, a little bit.
And it was like one of her best songs. So
Yeah.
I was just like, this isn't your vibe.
No.
Literally one of the worst performances I've ever seen. You win some, you lose some, and then sometimes you lose the Super Bowl.
Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Welcome to the Blue 52 Show. My name is Jacob. Today I'm joined by my very good friend Dylan Keefe. Dylan Keefe is the hickest friend I know. He's the only friend I know that has a pickup truck. He's also a baby-faced boy.
Part of the gang.
You need to grow a beard out, dude.
Dude, I'm so patchy that I can't. Like I got a bald patch over here, and I can't grow anything up past, like, right here.
Are you a chin and sideburns, or a neck and sideburns, or mustache and cheek?
I'm a neck and sideburns, and then I can grow, like, just a tiny bit right.
I think mustaches kind of swing both ways. They're kind of a swinger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They play. They
bat for both teams.
Yeah. What's it called?
All-time offense.
Yeah. Yeah. Mustache is all-time QB.
All-time QB. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
All right. So today we're talking about the Cowboys mainly because that's the other thing I forgot to mention is Keith is also a Cowboy fan. I'm not. But I wanted to do a video kind of rebuilding teams, not like in a Madden way but in a real life way. It's not gonna be like a full like all in rebuild, but definitely gonna go over some of the free agency moves that they should make this offseason, drafting a little bit, re-signing, and just how you view this team. First of all, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I really appreciate you for having me.
I appreciate you coming.
I've been excited that you started this, and I wanted to hop on with you.
You a fan?
So, oh, yeah.
Big time.
Big time.
Yeah. All right, first of all, to get into the mind of a Cowboy fan, what's your experience like as a Cowboy fan?
I wake up, use the restroom like everybody does, take a shower. When I'm in the shower, I usually cry.
Yeah.
About how horrible the Cowboys do every year, and how they get my hopes up for the Super Bowl every year, and then they just absolutely throw the games away, and throw the playoffs away
Every time. What Cowboy player do you think about in the shower? Since
Usually
you brought it
Dakota.
up. Who?
Big Dak.
Oh, is that his full name?
Yeah,
I thought
his government name.
I thought his first name was Aubrey because he reminds me of Drake.
You think he's got it like Drake does, or what?
No way.
No,
he doesn't slay. Like
he's actually Drake. His either his fiance or longtime girlfriend or something's pregnant right now. They just took some maternity photos. So it was pretty sweet.
I bet his maternity photos were like kind of cringy.
Yeah, a little bit. It's Dak. So.
Yeah, we're used to it.
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, where do you rank the Cowboys on here? Your top 5 teams going into this next season, and I want to know where. Yeah. I can start with that. My list, and I kind of wrote this up kind of quickly, but off the top of my head, it's 49ers in the 1, Chiefs at 2, Ravens still at 3. Lions 4, and I did put the Texans at 5. I think going into this next season, the Texans are definitely competing for a top spot. I kind of debated between them and the Bills. I know the Bills are a little more solidified, but the Texans just looked really good this last year.
Bills defense has got some injuries. They need to fix a few things, but my top 5, I got the Niners in Kansas City. I got the Lions over the Ravens because I think the Lions, if they figure out how to not go for a fourth down in a clutch game situation, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
I got Ravens at 4, and then I really think that Cowboys could do it at 5. I think they've been a top 5 team for the last 2 years. So I think they'll stay like that because they have so many good players that it's just kind of going to stay that way.
Right.
As long as we don't get hit with like a massive injury plague or something. Yeah.
So the Cowboys in the 5, I know after the playoffs happened, everyone kind of just wrote them off and dropped them like 10, 12, 11 or whatever. Do you think if the playoffs didn't happen, I mean, that's a weird situation, but let's just look at the regular season. I feel like most people definitively put them in the top 5.
Yeah.
So how much do you play into effect, like ranking them for this next year, knowing how they did in the playoffs, suspecting that could potentially happen again?
I think if we're looking at solely regular season, I think that they could do it. They could be another top 5 team this year. I don't think that the playoffs are really... They're the thing everybody looks at, but if you have a couple bad games or a bad game, like that Niners-Lions game was not great in the first half. The Lions actually took it to the Niners for at least 2.5 quarters. So I really think that it's kind of like that, how the Niners were in the Cowboys situation in the wild card. Like if we took the NFC Championship game and the wild card game between the Cowboys and the Packers.
Right.
I think that if we look at it and compare the Niners and Cowboys and then the Packers and the Lions, it's kind of like the same idea. It's just the Cowboys couldn't pull it off. Couldn't come back from that.
Got unlucky.
Yeah.
That happens pretty consistently, getting unlucky for you.
I just think...
What's the foundation of the Cowboys? So give me your top 5 players on the team that you think they need to keep throughout everything and make sure that they stay in their future.
Obviously, Micah Parsons is an all-pro. That's a no-brainer. He's one of the best edge/linebackers in the league right now. CD, he had an outstanding season. I think if the chemistry was a little better between him and Dak, he could be way better. Like that playoff game was just not it.
How do you feel about Micah Parsons splitting? He's not really playing linebacker anymore. Do you want him to play linebacker, or is he?
I think he was more effective as a linebacker. I think his coverage game against running backs is solid. I think he can hold his own against running backs. I think that we need to use him more off the edge to free up space on the other side of the line for DeMarcus Lawrence. So if you run him from the edge or like an outside linebacker position and blitz him, then the whole line's going to focus to the left side, right? And then that leaves DeMarcus Lawrence one-on-one against, even if it's a good right tackle, it doesn't really...
DeMarcus Lawrence is a really good edge rusher, too.
That's just how it is.
Your right tackle is probably your second best tackle.
Exactly.
So,
because most quarterbacks are right-handed.
Yeah. And then you said CD. CD obviously had a great year. Used a little bit in the slot. Where do you see his role?
I think we use him just the same.
Keep doing the same, just all over the place.
If he's averaging 90 yards a game,
yeah. I
mean, even 80 yards a game and a touchdown, that's more than enough to keep us afloat, you know?
Yeah, that contract's going to be crazy with him. They might end up making it like a 5-year deal or something.
I hope they do.
Who's up next after Mike and
I
CD?
got Trayvon Diggs. I think Trayvon Diggs, if he didn't have the ACL surgery or ACL injury in practice, we could have been a lot better off. We wouldn't have to sign Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to worry about that. I got Ford, Deron Bland.
Right.
Broke the pick 6 record this year.
Do you think he's in a similar camp kind of as Trayvon Diggs, where they're both like, they'll get 6 to 8 picks a year, but they're also going to get burnt a decent amount?
Not this last season, but the season before. Trayvon was that the year that he blew a bunch of coverages, or was it the year before that?
His first year, I don't think he did much of anything, and then his second year, I think he had the 9-pick season, but he had a lot of yards he let up, and I think the season after that, he had a few picks, but cleaned up some of the blown coverages and stuff like that.
And he was still top 7 corner, so
yeah.
If Trayvon Diggs comes back healthy, keeps his coverages tight, plays the field well. I think he'll be okay. Deron Bland, I feel like if Stephon Gilmore doesn't work out and we get rid of him, Deron Bland will be a good number 2 corner. I'm not worried about him really doing terrible things or letting coverages go like astronomically. Everybody gets confused
terrible
sometimes.
Things like terrorism.
Yeah. And then 5, I got Jake Ferguson. I think he's stepped up to the role well. I think he learned under Dalton Schultz pretty well.
Do you think that's the long-term tight end, or is that we'll keep him here until we can put someone in? Because I know Dallas likes their tight ends. It's a bigger
Dallas
deal.
is a big. They're a big tight end team going back to Jason Witten. So I think if they keep him for the long term, he'll do well. I mean, he was really good against the Seahawks against Jamal Adams on that touchdown where he like outmuscled him.
Yeah. Speaking
of that, ever since Jamal Adams got to Seattle, he has not been the same player.
He's been hurt so much.
I know,
dude. That concussion he got at the start of the season, he finally came back after like 30 weeks and then got concussed like the first play, dude. Brutal. I want to make a video on the Seahawks soon.
Yeah. And then my honorable mention is Jaron Curse. I feel like he's just solid. Like, there's not really much to complain about.
Yeah, he's like, you can move him around in a lot of different places, and I think that defense really likes that kind of flexibility, both in the secondary and especially with like Micah up front.
And Mike Zimmer, he's a great DC. Let's be totally honest here. Like, he might not be the best head coach, but at a coordinator spot, like Dan Quinn,
he's got a lot of talent to work with. I think that'll help out. I agree. Jake Ferguson as a top 5 is a little bit surprising, but I think he had a better season than I realized. I think I was a little lower on him. Who do you credit for the Cowboys' loss in the playoffs? Who's at fault? Is it just one person, or you got a list?
So I got a few kind of things that should have been not the way they were and would help us to win. I think the Dak and CD chemistry kind of fell off a cliff in that game. Dak could not get the ball accurately to him, or if he did, CD would just drop the ball. I think Mike McCarthy, he didn't do the best with play calling. I feel like sometimes he pulls stuff from outer space and tries to use it on a football field, and it doesn't really work. Kind of reminds me of when defenses know what's going on, but he thinks they're not knowing it. Or like he sees a coverage that he likes, but he picks a play that could burn one side of the coverage, but also locks down the other side of the coverage. I feel like you need to have like a happy medium where you can get CD one-on-one over the top or whatever. The run game, slow,
so weak,
inefficient, weak.
Do you
Some
regret
might say poverty?
Some might. Do you regret letting go of Zeke now?
I don't think so. I think that the way he's going in his career, he's only got a few years left, like, of solid Zeke kind of
performance.
Yeah. I agree. I like that we got out of the contract when we did. We still have to pay, $6 million or something like that?
That's about it, yeah.
Yeah. So even if we only have to pay $6 million, getting rid of him was the play to do.
And they did sign that contract before it became evident to the whole league that you can't sign running backs to long-term big deals.
It's all about if you draft a good running back or get him a year or two after he gets drafted, like, you can't structure him.
Right.
You can't structure the offense around a running back because the league is so quarterback-driven. Like, if you don't have a good quarterback or, like, your quarterback gets hurt.
Yeah.
I don't think the media really understands that you can't build around a running back because they're so, like, you can't predict what's going to happen to a running back like you can a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, quarterbacks, obviously, there's a risk of injury, but they're one of the most protected positions in the league next to, like, kickers and punters and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
It's probably even at
long
this
snappers.
Point. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel like that run game definitely needs improvement, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the guys they can do that with.
Tony Pollard came off a leg injury. I think it was an Achilles or something. Something like that in the playoffs. So
he was a letdown this year for sure.
Yeah, but I mean how much of that needs to go to injury and trying to stay healthy?
I didn't love the play calling as much with how they were trying to run him, but I think that's also kind of where they ran into a roadblock where they realized, like, oh, we don't have Zeke now, we've got to use him in every role, and he's really just like a third down back, and that kind of exposed him a little bit.
More speed back than anything.
Yeah, he's a speed back for sure. I think they should totally just in like the third or fourth round just take a nice power back or something like that, and then just balance it out. Because it's worth re-signing Pollard as long as you get someone else in there also. Because Deuce Vaughn can't be your one.
No.
He's also a third down back.
Yeah. I think the overall defense didn't come to play in the first half of the Packers game. I think they played absolutely terribly. I think they let a young, inexperienced quarterback burn them, and I'm really upset about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of thing that I cry about in the shower.
To be fair, Jordan Love was on a tear. He was on like an 8-week. The last
Jordan
8
Love
weeks.
is now, I think he's legit.
Yeah.
I think he can be legit. I think we need to see more out of him. But I think he can be a legit quarterback in this league. I think Stephon Gilmore was a huge, astronomical letdown in the Packers game.
Yeah.
He was getting burned.
He showed age, too.
He showed age, yeah. He could not keep up with those young receivers for anything.
And, honestly, throughout the season, I thought Gilmore looked like he was almost like 100%. He was like in form. It was just, those last few weeks in the playoffs.
He was dealing with a shoulder injury in the last few weeks of the regular season and then the wild card game. So who knows if that's what's holding him back. But And then I think the D-line couldn't get home in pass rush. I think we couldn't. We didn't put enough pressure on Jordan Love. I think if we put enough pressure on Jordan Love, even if we still lost, it wouldn't be so bad.
It wouldn't be so embarrassing and make you cry in the shower.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about it, though.
All right, sweet. Then I'll just move to Mike McCarthy, because after that loss, my head was just thinking, he's out of here, for sure.
Yeah.
No way they're keeping him. And they did. Surprisingly, Jerry Jones decided to do... I mean, he's way too involved, and we can get into that too. Yeah. But I was thinking that they should have let go of Mike McCarthy. What did you think of that?
I thought that... I was really hoping that they would, but I really don't know who would take over. Like, who can we get? Move Dan Quinn up? Like...
There were a couple guys going around at the time, but they all ended up with different places anyway, so...
Yeah, I just think that either something needs to happen with Jerry Jones or something needs to change with how Mike McCarthy views the team, the play calls. He's not a bad coach whatsoever. Like, he can get it done. He's just
Do you think he's going to get you over that hump that he hasn't yet?
I think it's too early to tell, to be honest.
We're in like year 4 or 5.
I know, but like, I don't know what it is. I think we need a new OC. I don't think he's cutting it.
You had
because
Kellen
Moore.
He was a dog.
We were like top 3 in every category of offense.
The offense was really good this year, but again, if you can't do it in the playoffs, how good is the offense really? I really like Kellen Moore. I hope that the Chargers give him a big role, because I was expecting him to lead the Chargers, but he just hung around.
I mean, why would you when they got Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh?
It's Jim, right?
Jim, yeah.
I mix them up.
Your own team's head coach and you mix them up?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I think we have John.
Okay, so it's Jim.
Yeah.
You said that the power outage in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Where they played each other?
I wish I was there for that.
Dude, that'd be crazy, actually.
All right, so now let's get into some of the free agency stuff, some of the moves you want to see the Cowboys make this offseason. A few of the names I have written down that I think are potential candidates. First, Kirk Cousins. What do you think of them just signing him to a $45 million deal, having no cap space, cutting the rest of the team, and then going 2-15?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
Kirk Cousins.
No?
I would keep developing Trey Lance, to be honest.
Do you think that could be the future?
I think it could be if he shows promising.
Yeah, because
preseason and
training
camp.
I mentioned it to you earlier. I don't remember the exact amount of years, but Dak Prescott has, I think, 2 or 3 years left. I don't think they pick it up after that, but I do think they probably let that finish. Maybe the last year they use as like a void year or something, and they're able to trade him out or whatever. But
yeah.
Do you think Trey Lance would be in a position to start then?
I think so. I mean, Cooper Rush isn't going to get it done. He's too old. So
at that point, you'd hope that they might be able to draft someone. But
yeah.
Obviously, I was kidding with the Kirk Cousins thing, but it was just kind of funny. It would be funny if you could evenly trade. Let's just talk for this next one season. Evenly trade money wise Dak Prescott for like Kirk Cousins. Would you?
I don't think so, to be honest.
Okay.
I just think that Dak fits the scheme of Dallas and
he fits the culture of losing in the playoffs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's perfect at choking.
Yes.
Big
Yes.
Next,
but also, how many times has Kirk Cousins choked in the playoffs too?
That's true. How many times has he been to the playoffs?
Like 2, maybe.
How many primetime games have we seen him fumble?
But he also led the biggest comeback in regular season history. So
he did. That game was biggest comeback ever, and it's like the most forgotten game.
Dude, honestly,
it's like it was insane. It was a meaningless game.
People remember the butt fumble game more than that game.
The butt fumble's legendary.
Dude, it is though.
All right,
Mark Sanchez was so horrible, dude.
Next for free agents, Trent Brown, genuine.
Yes.
You're losing Tyron Smith, or maybe potentially re-signing him, but based off of the cap space, I'm going to guess they aren't able to do that. Trent Brown kind of seems like he might be able to be a decent replacement. Is there another offensive lineman or tackle you're looking at, or would you want to go a different position on the offensive line?
No, I think with Tyron Smith leaving, it'll be a big gap. Also, he plays left tackle, right? So
yeah,
he's the blind side for Dak. So
yeah,
if you get a good edge rusher like Chase Young or Nick Bosa on that side, it's lights out.
It's game over.
See you later.
Sure. I definitely think they're going to go offensive line in the offseason, and I feel like there's a potential that they'll do free agency and in the draft, and we'll go over the draft in a second. But Trent Brown, if they did get him, I think that really helps out in the run game, especially.
Yeah.
He's big dude. So I like that. And then also, you've talked a lot about getting a new running back, as I was just saying. The most likely candidate I put was Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
And then there's also the slimmer chance that you're able to sign a guy like Saquon or Josh Jacobs. What's your idea for addressing running back?
So, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have $20 million in debt and cap space.
Yeah.
So, I think the best scenario would be to take Josh Jacobs because he's younger. He's fast. He reminds me of like a mix between Zeke and Derrick Henry. Like the way he can change a game with that one Raiders game where he went absolutely bonkers. He had like 200 yards all purpose. Yeah. I think that I would really hope that they would try, but also it's just kind of like a weird year with cap space and who we have to pay, and if we want to keep our elite title in the regular season, we have to fork over some money. We have to let people who aren't the best.
Yeah, and I have a bunch of points about how they could get more cap space. I'll go over in a second. But also, you're talking about Josh Jacobs. It seems like it might be more likely for Austin Eckler. Do you think it's worth getting a running back like Austin Eckler, or is it just adding kind of a level of midness that isn't going to help?
I think Austin Eckler's solid. I think he can do well. He did well for the Chargers. Why can't he do well in Dallas? You know?
He is also a third down running back kind of guy. I think he's a little more rounded probably. I think he's also tougher than Pollard, but he looked slow this season, a good amount of it.
Yeah.
I still think he's worth signing and bringing on. He had a few plays that I was like, I don't know if he's just beat up. He's not old, but
He's getting there though.
Yeah, he
Running
is.
backs only last 6 years.
Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah. It's a huge rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And then addressing receiver, I think this is a bigger need than I think you do probably. I think that should be one of the priorities for the Cowboys is getting someone that you can pair with CD Lamb and just make a really dominant offense, kind of like, what the 49ers have going on, and since that's the team you're competing with. So T. Higgins and Michael Pittman both in free agency. What's your thoughts on either of them? Or
I really like T. Higgins. I think he did well when Jake Browning wasn't the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
I like your thoughts on trying to get some attention off of CD to make it so that we can scheme both of them open more. I think against man coverage, T. Higgins, if he's at the 2 receiver, I think he could be a huge role. I think Michael Gallup needs to walk, to be honest, because he's not what he used to be.
He's been a little bit of a letdown.
He is just wasting money like Zeke did his last year.
Yeah.
I kind of
He's a dev blocker,
despise the fact that Zeke wasted millions of dollars and did nothing.
Yeah. So is Dak, though.
I mean, Dak had,
he's
Dak
on
had
the
a
team at least. But
MVP talks all year.
Yeah.
He couldn't get it done because the league loves Lamar. But I mean, I don't hate Lamar. I think
Lamar.
he's good.
I'm a big Lamar fan. Michael Pittman's the other receiver I mentioned. Now, it doesn't feel super likely that you're able to get T. Higgins considering your cap space currently, and then also the fact that you got to pay CD and Micah Parsons. So that might be tough. But if you are able to get a guy like Pittman, do you think T. Higgins or Pittman or any other receiver like that's a little bit more of an X, go up and get the ball, jump ball, tough guy? Do you think that puts CD in more of a slot role? How does that change what CD does?
I think he'll obviously still be wide receiver 1 because the way he produces yards and catches and routes and his craft. I feel like he's just a well-rounded receiver besides the jump ball. He's a little small, but all those miraculous catches, like that one Vikings game where he was running one way and then laid completely backwards to get the ball.
Yeah.
I think what he did to the Giants both games this year was absolutely horrible, and what he made them experience makes him a D1 menace, to be honest. He's probably the biggest menace in the league right now.
Except for George Pickens.
That too, yeah. That guy's pretty unreal, to be honest.
Dude, how do the Steelers keep finding bozos like that? I love the most talented athletic receivers that are just
AJ Brown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not AJ Brown, Antonio Brown, sorry.
Antonio Brown. Well, AJ Brown
AJ Brown's kind of a menace.
Yeah, he kind of is, but I think I was thinking that he was a drama starter and causer in Philadelphia, and then I realized he's taking them out on the team on vacations and stuff. He's trying to bring the chemistry back.
Yeah.
He was the one guy that was helping.
Speaking of that, Jalen Hurts, the way he can't lead his team this year, the way he couldn't,
the
way he was just pouting on the bench,
dude, something is off about the Eagles. That was really weird to me.
How they lost pivotal games to get them the division was kind of crazy.
The energy after week 10 just completely shifted. I think when they got beat by the 49ers, they just gave up on the season. They were just if we can't beat the 49ers, we're not going to win, so who cares?
Yeah.
That sounds like it shouldn't be true, but
they still did well for what they had available for games, and they still did well with the rest of their season, but
the Eagles?
Yeah. 11-6 is pretty decent.
Yeah, but they were 8-1 and then lost 9 in a row. All right. This is gonna be me reading stuff for a second, but I just wanted to go over. I'll show the website that I got it off of, but how the Cowboys can increase their cap space. It is kind of complicated. There's kind of 3 or 4 things they'll have to do. It is going to start with Dak Prescott. He's scheduled to be a $59 million cap hit. If they can structure a deal extend it a little bit more, and then they can reduce that number by about $20 million.
Mm-hmm.
They can also redo the Diggs deal in Martin and Diggs. Who's Martin?
Zach Martin.
Oh, Zach Martin.
Bro's an all-pro guard.
He's literally the best guard that's ever played football. He's like started 12,000 snaps in a row, and they can redo Zach Martin and Diggs deal, and they could potentially create another $20 million cap space, a new deal for CD, which does sound like that's going to crush your cap space, but the right deal, if it's long term as well, and they guarantee a good amount of it, could help out with about $17 million. A restructure with Terrence Steele, who's been awesome for you guys. Mm-hmm. He's been huge. Mm-hmm. And then cutting Michael Gallup as well.
Yeah. And
you can save another $10 million. So there is a way for the Cowboys not to just be a completely empty roster within the next couple of years for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think Jared Jones will get that figured out. He'll take care of his boys, even though he makes some dumb decisions. I think he's also he's better at what he does than people realize. Mm-hmm. He's been doing this for a while. He just needs to keep his nose out of everything and just worry about writing checks.
Yeah, for sure. Stop trying to be the GM, even though that's like your job. Stop.
Do you think you own the place just because you have billions of dollars?
My daddy owns this facility.
Senior Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Back in the 1400s. That dude is old.
Yeah.
All right. So earlier we went over a couple mock drafts, just looking at who the Cowboys could get. We just went over the first 3 or 4 picks. First pick, you took Tyler Guyton, so it seems to me like your big focus is addressing and fixing the offensive line.
Right.
I know you're losing a couple guys, but you still have a really good offensive line in place. Is it kind of, as a Cowboys fan, are you just really used to having that elite offensive line and keeping that's the most important?
Yeah, I think offensive line is the best thing to use, or one of the best position groups, because like if you don't have a good offensive line, then you're going to be stuck in the Kirk Cousins situation where he gets hurt, banged up every game all year long, and then at the end of the year he's just tired and can't keep it up. He's also getting old.
Yeah.
Dak's getting old. This is 7th year or something this year. Yeah, he's getting older. I think he needs to stay upright more.
Yeah.
I think the way Tom Brady kept his O-line, the way he took like pay cuts to get people to help him was something that the league is greedy and everybody wants to be paid, but if you want to win Super Bowls and you don't want to be criticized for being a Cowboys player, you need to start being a little more selfless instead of selfish. So I think that if they do go O-line route, it will help in the long run with playoff runs and keeping Dak upright, because Cooper Rush isn't going to get it done. Let's be 100% real.
Definitely not. Tyler Guyton there's obviously a few other guys that could have been taking there. I'm kind of more worried about addressing the positions you wanted to. Tyler Guyton's kind of a raw development guy. I feel like the culture in Dallas is perfect for that, though. I feel like every team has a position or two that they've kind of always been known to like dev up really well and build. And obviously, offensive line's got to be for the Cowboys.
I mean,
they've had elite offensive line play for years.
Zach Martin's been playing for Dallas his whole career. So
yeah, I don't know. He literally, if like every time they do the NFL top 100 players, he could be like the top 3 every single year of his career, and people don't even realize it. He's so good at football.
Even if you just do top linemen, he'd be top 1 or 2 every single year.
Yeah. All right, second round. Took Trey Benson, wanting to go running back. We talked about it earlier with free agency and stuff, and I do agree that running back's a big deal. So what kind of back are you really looking for out of the draft, and what are you willing to give up to get it? Like, how early of a pick? How much money? Like, if you went free agency, how important is running back?
Well, I think that we have 2 7th-round picks this year. Mm-hmm. So worst case scenario, we trade our 2nd-round pick and a 7th-round pick to move up to get who we want for running back. I'm not really sure what that'll hold for us. I think this year's running back class is not as good as it used to be previous years.
Yeah, that's true. I think there isn't a Bijan Robinson in this class.
Right.
And the top guy would be Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, but he's been injured for most of the season. So it's tough finding that number 1 guy, but I'd say the guys that are worth taking, and running backs treated differently. They're not supposed to be taken in the first round. So the guys that are in that 2nd to like 4th round, it's full. Like there's a lot of guys in that category, but there isn't that home run hit. And then in the 3rd round, you wanted to go corner with TJ Tampa. He's a big press man corner kind of guy. Corner, another big need for you guys?
I don't think it's like a huge need because we got Trayvon Diggs and we have Deron Bland. Stephon Gilmore right now, who knows if he gets re-signed, but even if we do re-sign him and he plays like third down, 3rd in the rotation, because defensive players, I mean, let's be real, they need rest. It's not like offense where you can run a set O-line or keep your running back in the whole time. Or it's just not how it goes. So you got to have kind of like a good rotation on defense.
That to me is how the Eagles last year, not this most recent year. That's kind of how to me they really had one of the better defensive fronts. It wasn't because even that Super Bowl year they didn't have a real superstar. Hassan Reddick had a really good year.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a superstar though. I think he was able to get that kind of production because he was able to come off the bench every now and then. And they're rotating 6-7 guys a game. You've got a lot more energy left, and guys like Micah Parsons can take over if you have that with the Cowboys.
Also, we drafted either last year or the year before Osa Odigizua. He has been pretty solid for us coming off the bench when he needs to. We have a few good interior D linemen. They're not like absolutely crazy like Aaron Donald by any means, but
you drafted Mozzie Smith in the first round last year, and I wouldn't say he had a great year, but also you have to give defensive tackle time. I think he'll be fine. I'm not worried. I don't think that was a bad pick, but yeah, he was a letdown, but I think over time he'll work out. I think 3 years is what it takes for a defensive tackle to become average to good. Jalen Carter obviously had a great year, but that's kind of an anomaly. Most of the time, it takes some time.
Like unless you're a freak like Aaron Donald or
yeah, he's crazy.
He is wild.
Last kind of position, at some point you wanted to address receiver, maybe in 3rd or 4th round or whatever. You pointed out Johnny Wilson. You seem like a fan of
6'7", 230.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being mossed by that guy?
Yeah.
Do you imagine like he just like would break the will of people, like corners and safeties. Yeah,
they would not want to cover because they're gonna play him at receiver probably.
Yeah,
and imagine being like Emmanuel Forbes at Washington, who's like 5'9", 160 pounds.
Dude, that's like looking at a little person versus an average person.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Average height person. That's crazy.
Thank you for being politically correct.
Yeah, no problem. And like Danny Duncan always said, they're little people.
Yeah. With big hearts.
Big hearts, yeah.
You talking about Johnny Wilson reminds me of like being in middle school, and not that I'm like an ideal football player like size wise, but in middle school I was pretty wide. I had big shoulders, and I remember so often coaches being like, "Look at the shoulders on this guy, this one," like talking about me like I'm a calf. I feel like
you're at a stock show.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we talk about players like that when you get into Johnny Wilson, just like that 6'7",
230.
That's like,
bro.
That's like you talking about your truck, like,
dude. For real,
bro.
Look how wide that thing is.
Look how wide Johnny Wilson is.
Look at his ass.
I'll keep that. Awesome. So that's gonna round us up on the Cowboy talk. thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
I hope your showers can be a little bit better in your future.
I hope so too.
Yeah, and you don't cry so often from being this.
I might have to light my Tony Pollard jersey on fire, to be honest.
I would agree. I think he earned that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Thank you guys for joining me. Make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. You have anything you want to plug or round up with?
I mean, if you guys are interested in trucks,
show them your truck.
I'm getting 04 GMC with a Duramax, the LLY. So if you guys are interested in seeing the build process, over on TikTok, my handle's gonna be Pewter, PEWTER .LLY.
I'll make sure to put it on the screen too.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Y'all have a fantastic day. Peace out.